Bigfoot is featured in both American and Canadian folklore, and since the mid-20th century has grown into a cultural icon, permeating both popular culture and becoming its own distinct subculture. Most people that claim to have encounters with this elusive cryptid have typically said that the creature was shy and timid, often fleeing from the person upon encountering them. However, this story is not that type of encounter. This is a story of a much different claim, one that entails a murderous and cannibalistic group of Sasquatch. So what happened in eastern Oklahoma in 1855? And how many people were murdered? What was the Bigfoot War? Let's try and find out. Tales of a hairy creature many people regard as being real, stalking the very woods in which they hike or set camp in, are not always easy to put aside. And one such terrifying tale is the story of a Bigfoot war that allegedly took place in eastern Oklahoma. It is said that in 1855, a band of Choctaws and Anglo farmers in what is now LaFleur County were experiencing some terrifying events. It all began in a rather benign way with the theft of crops, a few head of livestock, and other foodstuffs by stealthy bandits in the night. The thieves were always quiet and never seen. They were also smart, as somehow they never ventured into the Choctaw encampments on nights when a guard was in place. The bandits consistently evaded the traps laid by farmers on the outskirts of the Indian Territory. Those tasked with apprehending these raiders gradually gained a reluctant admiration for their cunning as the thefts persisted over time. While the pilfering was troublesome and led to some difficulties, neither the Choctaw nor the neighboring farmers felt threatened by the food thieves. However, the situation took a drastic turn when women and children started disappearing. When the kidnapping finally reached the boiling point, a group of 30 Choctaw on horseback organized a posse to hunt down the abductors. The group was led by Joshua LaFleur, a man of mixed Choctaw and French blood, who was deeply respected by his fellow tribesmen. Also joining the search party was a Choctaw warrior named Hamas Tubby and his 6 sons. The Tubbies were huge men, all approaching 7 feet in height and weighing in at more than 300 pounds each. They were fierce warriors and expert horsemen. The Tubbies were so effective in mounted warfare that despite their massive size, they became known as the Light Horsemen. The group, armed to the teeth, set out into the region known today as McCurtain County Wilderness area to search for the kidnappers. After riding all day, the searchers finally arrived in the area where they believed the bandits to be hiding. LaFleur brought his troops to a halt, stood up in his stirrups, and surveyed the area with a spyglass. It is unclear exactly what LaFleur saw, but whatever it was, he ordered his men to charge towards a stand of pines roughly 500 yards away. LaFleur and the Tubby men led the attack. As the troops closed the distance between themselves and the stand of pines where the kidnappers were thought to be hiding, they were hit by a tremendous stench, the unmistakable odor of death. The horses began to buck and rear, tossing their riders. Only the mounts of LaFleur and the Tubby men were disciplined enough to remain composed, allowing the 8 men to continue through the pines. As the men cleared the small wooded patch, they came upon a large earthen mound. Then they saw the horrific sight. Scattered across the mound were the bodies of children and women in various stages of decomposition. Then LaFleur and the Tubbies caught a glimpse of several of the murderers fleeing into the tree line on the opposite side of the mound. Only 3 of the killers stood their ground to meet their charge. It was at this time that the men realized they were not up against human foe. Rather, standing before them, snarling and beating their chests, were 3 huge, hair-covered creatures. Enraged, LaFleur drew his pistol and saber, spurred his mount, and charged. As LaFleur approached the nearest Sasquatch, the beast took a mighty swipe, striking his horse in the head, killing it instantly. LaFleur rolled off his falling horse, quickly jumped to his feet, and fired multiple shots into the chest of the creature. Once his pistol was empty, LaFleur attacked the second Sasquatch with his saber, opening a gaping wound on the animal, which in turn roared in rage and pain. LaFleur's assault on the creature was so quick, and the shock of seeing the hairy-covered monster so great, that the tubby men hesitated, completely stupefied before entering the fray. This delay allowed for one of the other Sasquatches to get behind LaFleur, who was intensely focused on the Bigfoot he was engaged with. The second beast grabbed LaFleur's head with his two huge hands and ripped it from his shoulders. The horrible sight jolted the tubby warriors into action. They opened fire on the three Sasquatches with 50 caliber Sharps buffalo rifles. Two of the beasts were killed instantly, dropping in their tracks. The third creature was wounded and fled. Robert Tubby, only 18 years old, spurred his horse and ran down the injured Bigfoot, dispatching him with his hunting knife. After gathering their panicked horses, the rest of the warriors joined them and surveyed the carnage. The bodies of dead women and children, mostly partially eaten, littered the area. The smell of decay, along with the terrible odor of the beast's feces, caused many of the men to vomit. After composing themselves, the men gathered the remains of the unfortunate women and children and buried them. They also buried their leader, Joshua LaFleur. As for the three ape-like monsters, their bodies were placed on a huge bonfire and burned. Their hellish task complete, the Choctaw warriors returned to Tuscaloosa, where it is said even the mighty Tubby men were plagued by terrible nightmares for years afterwards. Amazing story, is it not? But is any of it true? Well, according to Bigfoot researcher Jim King, the answer might be yes. King believes the LaFleur County story is based on an event that took place much farther west in Kiowa territory, an event related to him by an Indian elder. According to the story, Kiowa women were placed in a special teepee on the edge of camp when they started their menstrual cycle. The women stayed there, being tended to only by older women until their cycle was complete. The elder told King that the women were considered unclean during their cycles, and the Kiowa warriors were not only forbidden to have any physical contact with the females during this time, they weren't even allowed to look upon them. The elder then said that once long ago there had been troubles with ape-like creatures who were attracted by the scent and pheromones emanating from the teepee where the menstruating women were housed. Since the teepee was on the edge of the encampment, it proved to be an easy target for the renegade Sasquatch, who are said to have entered and carried off the women on several occasions. To make a long story short, the Kiowa leadership decided that this was unacceptable and put together a group of warriors to hunt down the kidnappers. The searchers did manage to track down the Sasquatch back to its lair and killed its entire family unit. Also, many put their faith in the LaFleur County version simply due to the name of the unfortunate Joshua LaFleur. They state they wouldn't have named the county after him if it wasn't true, and other similar statements abound. However, according to the Oklahoma Historical Society's website, the name honors the prominent LaFleur family of the Choctaw Nation. Could Joshua LaFleur have been one of the prominent LaFleur family? It is certainly possible, but there does not seem to be any documentation singling out Joshua or his actions as the reason for the naming of the county.
They don't have like mythical creatures in Native American mythology, but they do have this one giant man thing that definitely existed.
At some point.
At 100%, Gigantopithecus was a real animal. It was 8 to 10 feet tall, bipedal hominid. Yep. It was a huge gorilla-looking primate.
The tale of the LaFleur County Bigfoot War, whether entirely fictional or not, appears to suggest the long-standing presence of a massive, hairy, ape-like being in the area. This belief predates the emergence of Bigfoot in American culture, notably before the Patterson-Gimlin film. Coupled with similar beliefs held by numerous Native American tribes throughout North America, who have recounted stories of these creatures seizing women and children, the body of evidence supporting their existence grows. Truth be told, the notion of Sasquatches snatching women and children continues to captivate, frighten, and scare us even now.